Thank you so much for staying with us, and believe me, that is the story. That's the core of what we are talking about this morning on Sunrise. Okay, just to let you know, we have 5 things we want to discuss this morning. We'll begin with national orientation for national development. We'll be talking about functional education matters that are arising. Tech, use, downstream oil and gas sector is there. On lifestyle today, let's talk about self-medication, and artist of the week is... No, I'll hold that one. But let's go into the first conversation this morning. And, you know, one thing that I find very interesting, I was going through something this morning. I find it very, very, very exciting. Let me take you through it. So I was just scouring the internet for the conversation, and I found out that the present, of course, is something that I had known for a long time. The present National Orientation Agency used to be known as Mass Mobilization for Self-Reliance, Social Justice, and Economic Recovery, MAMSA for short. It was inaugurated on July 25, 1987 by the Babangida regime, with its objectives as propagation of the need to eschew all vices in public life, inclusive of corruption, dishonesty, electoral and census malpractices, ethnic and religious bigotry, shed all pretenses of affluence in Nigerian lifestyle, reorient Nigerians to shun waste and vanity, inculcating Nigerians a dependence towards locally made goods, and mobilize Nigerians to participate in upcoming elections and public debates, among several others. Well, as we all know, there's so much that have been said over that, and you know, many of us grew up with some songs. Those who will not forget Andrew in a long time. Nigeria is our country. Let's work together and salvage Nigeria together. And after some time, they produced a second one. And then in that, about that same time, was when Venom Ariogai released a song titled Nigeria Go Survive. And one of the famous lines in it was, Andrew, no check out, oh. Stay and build your country, Nigeria go survive. If we went on and on. If you do your work, oh, and me, I do my own, oh. Andrew go stay to help, oh. Nigeria go survive. Lovely song. But then I wouldn't also forget this one. It was on one of the FRCN stations at the time. And it was literally talking about individuals. Long throat no good, oh, why you na sabotage? If you no go help Nigeria, now your shame be that. But where are those songs now? Those were public service announcements, social engineering songs. But hey, where are we today? Let's have conversations around this national orientation for national development with Atinyota Hallelujah Pobome, popularly known as Alibaba, in case you don't know. He's former head of a federal government committee on creative industry. He's also a comedian. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me again.
2 individuals join us virtually. Dr. Adetola Salau is a former special assistant on education to the Lagos State Governor. She joins us virtually, as well as Dr. Olatunji Sobodu, who is founder and CEO, Emet Leadership Academy, joins us also virtually. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us this morning. Let me begin with you, Alibaba. First of all, what memories do those songs bring to you?
There's one that also joins the list of the ones you mentioned. We say, me, I like my country, I like the land and people, everything he did for Nigeria. Make you join hands to make Nigeria better. You see, most of the key points and objectives and functions that MAMSA had at the time, which later became National Orientation Agency, have all been defeated by the government officials themselves. So you have government officials themselves who have refused to invest in the country. And so it is difficult for them to tell any other person to invest in the country.
Because what they're supposed to do, they're not doing.
They're not doing. So you then have government officials who have refused to invest in tourism, but travel on boat cruises.
Outside Nigeria.
Outside Nigeria. They go on leisure trips outside Nigeria. They go to watch sports festivals outside Nigeria, but will not invest in Nigeria. The other thing is the purpose and objectives of MAMSA and National Orientation Agency is to actually galvanize the people in unity, patriotism, and have them function in a way that it helps national goals and national development. But you see, most of the time, not even just a lot, most of the time, you find that the agency has failed in doing that because the government itself does not think there's a purpose in that orientation agency.
What's interesting in all of this that you're saying is that it was government that initiated MAMSA in 1987.
Yes.
And it was expectedly government that should have sustained it. It was the same government that converted MAMSA into NOA.
Okay.
I think that was in the Fourth Republic, when the Fourth Republic began. So what then? Where is the gap? Don't worry, let me take the opening comments of Dr. Adetola Salau as well. She's in the education space, former special assistant on education to the Lagos State Governor. Well, Dr. Salau, what are your memories about patriotic songs such as the one Ali Baba and I just shared? Please unmute. Go ahead.
Yes, I just thought I was muted. Yes, I actually started singing along. I did. I was like, everything we did for Nigeria. Yeah. Great memory.
Okay, but would you say that we have lost anything by when those things don't seem to be popular anymore? And in terms of national orientation, those things, were they effective as far as you're concerned?
I think they were effective for a good number of us in that till today we have a strong identification with Nigeria. When I was in the States, every Friday, when it was supposed to be casual Friday, I always wore a derail or para because I strongly wanted to identify with my heritage, with my people. And I was very proud to always tell people that I'm Nigerian. So it really helped. I think the biggest thing for us to work on in terms of national orientation is to get back, because there was a discussion I had with a couple of other intelligentsias, people who are also working on how do we transform education, what do we do to orient the mindset of our students. And I was telling someone that if you look at the 50s and the 60s in the US, they made major strides in promoting this whole patriotism that we still see in Hollywood and a lot of the media in the US. It started then during the space race, and they utilized a lot of media, entertainment, push and drive that message. And it was a uniform message and it was passed over and over. So yes, using public service announcements is quite effective, but it's going to cut across all these spheres, and it has, that particular message has to pass. And that message that was passed in the 50s and 60s was
they were buttressed, but pardon me for butting in, Dr. Salau, they were buttressed by with education. As I said before, countless times, I'm so proud of the fact that when I was growing up in my primary school, early primary school days, we had such subjects as moral instruction and civic education. In the secondary school, we had social studies, and you couldn't miss, you know, certain values and ethics of nationhood in any of those classes. How well would you say we are doing with those things now?
We still have civic education. We have religious studies. We have civic education. We have religious studies. But I think the issue is there needs to be uniformity. It needs to be uniform where the message being passed at home, the message being passed all across. That was the point I was trying to make about the US. That their singular message was we are number one. We're going to win the space race. We are unbeatable. That thing was hammered and hammered and hammered. So the whole thing is, from the home, at school, everywhere, that message passed. And a good part of it, yes, will be done in schools, but it also has to cut across layers. I don't think if they had only done it alone in the school, I mean, it was quite effective, please don't get me wrong, but it was everywhere. That message was relentless.
Absolutely.
Constant, non-stop.
You couldn't miss it anywhere. Yeah.
You couldn't miss it anywhere.
Yeah. Well,
that's what
we need to get back to that. Yeah. Dr. Sobodu, Ali Baba mentioned, started his contribution on this program by talking about the leadership. And when I'm talking about the leadership here, he's talking about the civil servants, the public civil servants and public servants. I always make this reference, Dr. Sobodu, that it was before independence. I really wish I could get that piece of paper that I saw. I don't know whether it was online that I saw this piece of paper where Chief Obafemi Awolowo was delivering a lecture to students in the UK. And he was complaining to them at that time that the political class of his day, before the First Republic began, preferred imported stuff to locally made ones. He cited examples. He was speaking to students in tertiary institutions in the UK, Nigerian students in the UK at the time. Getting back there seems to be a lot of work, particularly at this time when the Minister of Information and National Orientation, by the way, that's actually deliberate on the part of the federal government to say it's not just information, arts and culture, information and national orientation. That's the name of the ministry now, the federal ministry now. At a time when the minister is talking about reorientation for Nigerians, how easy do you think that will go? Because starting from the top, it has to be not just from the bottom.
Well, thank you for having me. Let me start by latching on to what Ali Baba said. I think the fact that you can even remember the songs and you can sing them along and do so with such, excitement tells you that, we can have a potent campaign that can actually arrest the attention of the people. And once you arrest the attention of the people, you can get them to do the right things. I think where we have had a problem and where we're still having issues is it seems at the end that government, is showcasing hypocrisy. The act lacks authenticity. The people cannot relate. I can remember the songs. I can chant them. I can sing them. I can dance to them.
Go ahead and sing them.
But when Andrew, who would forget Andrew, for God's sake? You can't possibly forget Andrew. Mm-hmm. These are jingles that when you hear them play, you just go ahead and, they sounded very nice. Yeah. But then you are watching the government, you are watching your leadership, and you can't reconcile what you are being asked to do, what you are celebrating, with the message. So at the end of the day, the people are primed, ready, but they need to see that government means business. And so the kind of examples that Ali Baba gave tells you that, the leadership is not serious, that you are not taking, and it's unfortunate because huge resources are engaged, they are deployed for you and I to remember, to still have that nostalgia about these things. It means, that those resources were effectively deployed, but we did not take advantage of that because the leadership itself failed to support,
okay.
The campaign that it embarked upon. Perhaps, it remains a challenge today.
Yeah, perhaps is it a question of support or sustain? Because as Ali Baba and I just agreed now, it started in 1987 with MAMSA, right? But
yes,
it was sustained until the end of that administration, and there was a political turmoil. But let me ask Ali. So this is where we are now, and I want us to spend the next 30 minutes or thereabout, talking about how to wiggle our way out of where we are. All of us on this panel, please, let's try to find our way out of this. We have a huge population, speculatively more than 200 million. We have an immense youth bulge, more than 50%
for population
of our population are young people.
Yeah.
I doubt if there is any of those in that 50%, unless those who may be hearing about Andrew now had any idea who Andrew was. 1987 to now is 38 years ago.
Okay.
Now, those ideals are gone. The Constitution is very clear about certain objectives, national objectives, you know, the Constitution calls those things that we have. But who is telling anyone
about them?
That's another thing altogether. It's in chapter 20, in subsection, section 23 of the Constitution. And I quote it from time to time happily because it is right there, and we are supposed to raise them ourselves. National ethics, section 23. The national ethics shall be discipline, integrity, dignity of labor, social justice, religious tolerance, self-reliance, and patriotism. It is in the Constitution.
But you see, one of the objectives is to actually make people move away from exhibition of ostentatious life.
Yes, yes.
But not too long ago, we saw a bottle of whiskey being presented to somebody, a senator, that the drink alone was worth about 7 or 8 million naira.
Whoa.
Was presented to him. That's exhibitionism of ostentatious life.
It's very same things that are supposed to be eschewed.
Exactly. Don't forget that before MAMSA, it was war against indiscipline.
Yes, that was in
1984.
1984, yes.
So between 1984, the backlash was that when you say war against indiscipline, you are saying that your people are indisciplined. Fela did a song about it.
Yes.
And the offshoot was that, which is another good reason why people should actually speak up. From that song, it was like, okay, it's true. You shouldn't call your people indisciplined. So let's form an organization that encourages them to be disciplined.
But you know, on that, while I agree, I mean, you don't call your people indisciplined. You don't say your people are indisciplined. But I also remember Chief Ebenezer Obey doing a song about war against indiscipline. War against indiscipline. Let us be orderly. So it's a function of perspective.
Well, yes.
It's coming to why you are here. We've been citing examples of musicians doing stuff, but land on that issue.
Okay, but you see, it is now a case of the hypocrisy that I mentioned. The hypocrisy is so strong that if government actually now says, don't do this, spraying of money is showing ostentatious living as well. Yeah. And so, though I know some band members won't like that. But the point is, one of the reasons to MAMSA, the E in MAMSA, was economic development and growth.
Yeah.
So what are the things that create economic development? One is tourism. One is tourism. One is conference tourism as well. You notice that when you promote the things that you have, Nigerians pay so much money to go to India. How did we know that India has that kind of thing? They were promoting it. Our National Orientation Agency is supposed to work. Back then, MAMSA had an office in every... Yeah, MAMSA has an office in every part of the country.
They still do.
They still do.
NOA still do.
But you see, how effective is an agency that is not funded properly and does not even have priority in the front of, in the Council of State? They don't see that there's need for that agency to speak to ethnicity, to speak to unity, to speak to the mineral resources that we have, to speak to the languages. For instance, there's an advert that is going on now. The public awareness of carrying too much cash on you. They did it in Igbo, did it in Hausa, and did it in Yoruba. Now, they did it in Hausa and did it. So the grassroots has to be involved in any orientation agency thing that you're doing. Radio jingles, newspaper adverts. The achievements of this country need to... when our people were, when this Amosun lady was winning prizes and everything, you are supposed to now trickle that down to people, and then National Orientation Agency will be like, there's so many more of you that can become Amosun. Did you see any advert or any jingle from the National Orientation Agency about that, inspiring young ones to think like Amosun? No.
Amosun.
No. Now, patriotism, you have people, places, and then business opportunities. How many of the business opportunities that are in Nigeria have the National Orientation Agency mentioned to people and say, there are opportunities here? You don't have to go, all of you don't have to go into music.
Organizations that the nation can be proud of.
Exactly.
The way America is proud of Ford, Chevrolet, and the rest of them.
Right point. Movies. How many times has the National Orientation Agency called movie producers and say, we will give you X. 2 million naira to make sure that one of the virtues and values of this country are projected in your movies?
The ones that are in the Constitution.
Exactly. But we don't have that kind of thing. The other thing is, you have British Council that does the same thing for American government. They used to have USIS.
British government.
Exactly. For the British government, you used to have USIS. Now, US government used to have the USIS. Now it's the public awareness arm that they have. It is important for all of this to be galvanized towards making sure that people are aware, people are proud, people are conscious of their own responsibilities. Once the policy is out, the National Orientation takes it and runs with it. What are the engagements that the National Orientation Agency has? So I was talking with Baba yesterday.
Which one of them?
Obasanjo.
Okay.
I was talking with him yesterday, and he said, morale is low amongst Nigerians. He's not even talking, morale is low is something that the military always, the military always say. They tell commandant that morale is low. Commandant will be like, morale is low. Okay, let's ginger you guys up. Let's dance, let's run around, let's do some exercises, and they chant, all of that. What are we doing to build morale? What are we doing to correct? For instance, people are complaining, and the next thing you are sending well wishes to emails. Okay, no, let's. but that is the thing that we're saying. When morale is low, you do things that make people believe in your cause and the objectives of the country. When you have, for instance, the National Orientation Agency should have taken the idea of change of currency and pushed it for about like 2-3 months before it hits the people.
What's interesting, Ali, is that when Mamsa was prominent with those things, musicians took them by themselves.
Yes, exactly.
They didn't need conversation with government.
They didn't need to be spoken to.
They didn't need to be spoken to. Every time the woman who is the federal commissioner in charge of MPC in Lagos, every time she came here, I always reminded her when we were talking about census, I always reminded her that Kolinti Anyela, a Fuji musician, did a song for census.
Do you know that Sonny Ade and Onyeka did a song, having children?
Yes, wait for me.
Joko. You go feed them, give them love too. If you never ready to carry the load, why put them for another person's head? Because that's what's happening in the society now.
At the time, that was even more prominent then, because that was about the same time they were promoting, whatever against AIDS and protection. Anyway, we'll come to more of that. But Dr. Salau, let's speak about how national orientation can be championed through education. Ali Baba and I mean, it's something you also know. The young people in Nigeria are the most populous in the country, the most populous demographic in the country. More than 60% of them are in Nigeria. The development world, and including Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, called it the youth bulge. They are not a burden. They are benefits. They are an opportunity. And they don't have patience anymore. They have lost trust in government. So, in what way, going forward, do you think we can galvanize these young people? Low morale, as Ali said, trust deficits, and the education space, including the teachers themselves, there is low morale. So how do we galvanize the people who will speak to these young people and the young people themselves to believe in any national orientation theologies for national development?
Make sure that yes,
Go ahead, Dr. Salau.
Yes, it's a mindset thing. So there needs to be a lot of orientation around changing the mindsets for our youth. And also, as the adults, we also need to encourage them too. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done, but it can be done. I believe I was listening to the story of South Korea the other day. Yes, of course. And in the 60s and the 70s, they were just where we were. And here they are today now, they're the forerunner of a lot of technology. When you look at chip technology, they're in charge. Pretty much how many of us all have Samsung phones? I mean, I could go on and on. But what's changed, and I know, I'm going back to what Ali Baba said, to some degree, that leadership too has to drive us. But I'm also of that belief that we are also leaders in our own right, and I'll come to that. So for us, government, yes, there needs to be that orientation in the classrooms, correct, I agree. There needs to be that thing about mindset and creating that vision of what it is that we want this nation, which are some of the things they did in South Korea. But you know the other things they also did too. They came together collectively. For example, people didn't used to really trust the banks, but they made them bring and deposit their precious, I believe it was precious goods that they had, effects that they had, gold, things like that. They put them in the banks. And when you have collateral in the banks, you can use that to go borrow money, whatever it is you need to do. And that's how they were able to raise funds for their school. And like I said, we can see where they are now with that sacrifice that they made. So there needs to be, yes, orientation from leaders, from the schools, but there also needs to be that mindset and that vision with all of us. We need to start understanding that whether we like it or not, like you had said over and over previous, no matter where you go, you will always have an attachment to your name. Even if you do eventually get citizenship, that's issue. If you go to Britain, you're going to be a Nigerian British citizen. If you go to Canada, you're going to be a Nigerian Canadian. If you go to the US, you're going to be a Nigerian American. No matter what, you're always going to be prepared here. This is going to be your referral point. So we need to have that understanding that, guys, we're in this together. We're in this whole situation together. For better, for worse, whether we like it. It's a major marriage there. You're not escaping from it. No matter what, it'll always be attached to your name.
Yes, but Dr. Salau, while that is a fact of life, you are not unaware of so many people who openly, rejected Nigeria simply because of the way they have been treated at airports in different parts of the world. Yes, a few spoiling the name of a lot of so many others. That's understood.
I agree.
Yes, but where I'm going with the question, just a second. Where I'm going,
when they get to those airports,
yes,
what are you going to ask them for? They're still going to ask for those passports.
Yeah, I get that. But where I'm going is this: we can build from home. Even in embassies, Nigerian embassies all over the world, you are not unaware of the complaints that so many people have had about how Nigerian embassies treat Nigerians who go there. So it is not just something that happens within the confines of the nation, within the borders of Nigeria. It is something that we tend to also export. So I'm speaking particularly concerning the education bit. It's not just in the curriculum, because I know you have also spoken about a need to rejig the curriculum. It's not just in the curriculum. It's also in the people who are going to execute the curriculums, the teachers. What motivation do you think they need? That if the Federal Minister of Information and National Orientation is going to achieve anything at the federal level, there has to be that partnership with the states. So what has to happen?
What needs to happen? We'll come back again to mindset shift. There needs that, and there needs buy-in from them and from all of us. We all need to enter into this project together. And I also want to say something. Now, I was just remembering something just now, that I agree about the emphasis of the government. In fact, that's why I'm here, to also effect change as a policymaker in there. But I just remember that years ago, when I was, I would say a teenager, my dad bought this book. And the title of the book was How the Jews Influenced Hollywood. There you go. How the Jews influenced. That's what they did. This set of people, this set of wealthy individuals, you know what they did? They used their money to influence the way America was perceived through media. And it really came into full play during the Second World War. What was the message? What were the messages that were sent over and over and over? They are great. They are great. They are trying to think of the word, right? I will come to me, but they can't be conquered. They are for freedom. Until today, you still hear Americans say that message. We're for freedom. We want freedom. We give freedom ahead. We like to liberate people, over and over. They did that. So it's not always us waiting for the government. I also want to make this clarion call to a lot of us now. That yes, the honest, a lot of it does lie with our policymakers. The people like us who are working in that space. But at the same time, we need to start understanding that in our own homes, we also can do this work, and we need to start doing this work. I just mentioned to you that when I was in the States, when I was a teacher, I was wearing Adire, I was wearing Accra. I was quite proud of it. I was able to explain what it meant. I used to even go beyond that. During Black History Month, that's February, I used to make sure, because it's African American, and I mean African, don't forget. So I used to make sure that I always addressed our rich history here in Africa. They now brought that connection to them, their diaspora, and how we're all over the world, and how we're family. I kept doing that. Why was I able to do that? Because I came from parents who constantly drove that message. That's where I'm getting to. My parents were the ones who drove that message. It wasn't me. Remember, I was a child. And then when I was a child, I saw that being demonstrated by my parents. So by the time I became an adult, I've already embraced it. I already started living that.
All right.
Yes. So parents also have their own work.
Absolutely. Well, it's in the entire education space. But let me come to you, Dr. Sobodu. So the minister has made that announcement now. We need national reorientation. What are the things that you think must happen at that top? Ali just cited the example of a senator who was gifted a drink, and I want to believe not made in Nigeria, because I don't know what whiskey will be made in Nigeria that will be worth 8 million naira. And he received it. And the pictures or the videos went so far as to have been seen by Ali and a host of Nigerians as well. So what are the things that must happen at the top to demonstrate to Nigerians that we need reorientation and we need to do it ourselves from this very moment?
Okay, I remember the example that Ali was given. I think today, based on the current exchange rate, that drink, which I think was said to be about $40,000 or 40,000 pounds, you can run the numbers now based on the current exchange rate. So it further worsens, the kind of impact that could have. I think that really one of the major disconnects over the years is that you look at that national orientation and the leader himself at the level of the presidency doesn't quite take ownership of it. Whereas that should be the person who really drives it. That is the person who needs everybody to rally behind him in order for him to be able to get his job done. Let's be clear. If there is no trust, there is no way that a leader can deliver. The leader needs to work to earn the trust of the people. One of the major problems today is there is distrust, and that is both for the current, and that has built up over the years. Government after government have failed the people So we're making noise, we're trying to mobilize the people, and the people are wondering, okay, so who is behind this, and can we trust you?
In another 60 to 90 seconds, Dr. Sobodu,
yes.
You've talked about the issue of trust that we have to build. I guess that's a job for governments. How about the collaboration between federal officials and state officials to do the same thing?
Correct.
Because naturally, most of the time, we reference federal agencies and officials as opposed to the states as well.
Correct.
In all 36 states.
I was going to talk about that.
Okay.
Because and I love the fact that you brought that up. Now, it starts, for example, at the presidency, and that, at the level of the president, at the states, the governors also have to take the same responsibility. At the local government, it has to take the same responsibility. There has to be a connection across the three levels, and each one must be doing the same thing to reinforce the national message. Okay, everyone at their levels must take responsibility for driving the message, and that includes not just speaking, but also walking the talk. In all respects, because and all of that must derive from a vision. I love all the things that have been stated in the Constitution, but I think we're in a peculiar situation now. So we're not to be talking about generics. Don't come and talk to me about, I love my country and all of that. Answer the question, what is in it for me? The people want to know what's in it for them. And how committed are you to delivering on that score? That's what is going to make them line up behind you. And you need them to line up behind you in order to be able to get anything done.
Okay.
So the vision needs to be clearly, stated within the current context, followed by education and communication, followed by empowerment. All right? Because you don't say this is what we want to do, and then you don't help them to be able to play their role. You must empower. And then, of course, you have a focus on character development. And finally, you must have a framework where you can track improvements, give feedback, let the people know that we're making progress, and these are the indices, and give them an opportunity to be able to hold you accountable as well.
Well, that assignment of holding accountable belongs to us in the media, and it is also in the Constitution. I think that one is in chapter 22. I'm not very sure right now, but section 22. And let me come to you. Well, Dr. Sobodu just reminded me of that song, written by Wole Soyinka, many people don't know, and performed by Tunji Oyelano and the Benders. I love my country, I no go lie. Now inside I go live and die. When it turn me this, I twist am so. He push me, I push him, I no go. Brings to mind two things, Ali, and I'd like you to address it as much as you can within the little time that we have left. Number one is that none of these musicians waited for government to do something before they did it. A song by Idris Abdul Karim addressed philandering lecturers, titled Mr. Lecturer. A song by I've forgotten this guy's name. Which
a song by Sound Sultan talked about don't forget home.
Yes, Ajo Dabile and all of those things. I think this guy
Anywhere make you not forget area.
Exactly. So what needs to happen? Those songs that you're talking about, they are few and far between today. It's always now about, beautiful, making money and all those things. Fela dedicated his entire music career to social and national orientation, political consciousness. So what needs to happen for young Nigerians who are in music and entertainment today? Even in comedy we have you guys. So what needs to happen because that is the tool that you and I and the other panelists here are talking about. What needs to happen for them to take ownership?
So what I have what we found out when we worked on the federal project on creative industry was that sometimes government tries to stifle creativity when they see creativity question integrity. Once they see the creativity is questioning integrity of the government and what government is doing, they want to stifle them. For instance, you find that the Census Board was not actually set up to make movies better. The Census Board was set up to make sure nothing criticizes government.
Nothing anti-government.
Nothing anti-government. That's what the Census Board was set up for. It wasn't the film
quality.
It's not for the film quality, not for the standard. It's just to censor, which is what happens.
Are you sure about this? Because they're going to come for you.
Oh, yes, it's there. What is it called? Nigerian Census Board.
Film and Video Census Board.
So what is it? It's to say, oh, this can't be in this movie, this can't be in this movie, that can't be in that movie. It is not, oh, the quality of this movie is not good. You need to up it up.
It's not
story, the lyrics of your song are not. You see, you censor what is in songs and movies, but you are not doing anything to make sure that this quality increases. For instance, national integration. Back in the days, all government officials, permanent secretary, everybody used the pojo.
Yes.
Right?
It was a standard by the Gowon government.
It was standard. And at that time, money stayed back here. But right now, we're buying foreign vehicles for all our officials. If we invested the kind of money in the Nigerian-made vehicles, the company will grow. Meanwhile, other countries are coming to buy the Nigerian-made vehicles.
Including militaries from other countries.
Exactly. So the thing is, the economic growth that we're talking about, we need to patronize ourselves first. First of all, one of the things holding us back for tourism to grow in all parts of Nigeria is security. What is government doing to make sure that I can decide to go to Sobodu without fear? I can decide to go to... RMD went somewhere in Ghana and he sent a video to me and said, it's a very quiet and lonely place and the stream is just flowing past the back of his room. And he said, if we try this one for worry. So we laughed. But you see, the truth is, we need to do a lot more to make sure that people buy into these things that we're talking about.
But music has played a significant role in that department.
Music has played okay, for instance, and sometimes it's not about associations. For instance, Ashake, Davido, Wizkid,
Burna Boy,
all of them are not growing because they are members of PMAN. No. I would be surprised if some of them even have membership. But you see, it is when you are doing the right thing and government is supporting you. But these people don't get supported. If Ashake or Davido wants to do a concert now and says, I need 2 billion naira from a bank, they will ask for his father's birth certificate. All right? But guess what? If he does the concert, in 2 days after the concert, the money is back in the bank. But the person that now takes a loan to bring in vehicles, import vehicles, not even export our creativity, import foreign vehicles, they will give him the 2 billion. He will bring the cars and tie them down for about another 1 year because all the cars won't be sold at the same time. But if you gave it to an artist and then he went out to do a show, he would have made the money and come back and pushed the national identity further than the person that imported vehicles.
We had that system back in time. That I think was, I don't know, one cigarette brand at the time that was doing, shows. Lekki Sunsplash was such things, and so many such things that we had at the time. And the economy stayed at home. What happened to us?
Let me mention one. The National Export Promotion Council, when Segun Awolowo was there, sponsored my event in London. And somebody said, why are you sponsoring a comedy show? And they said the comedians that will perform there are Nigerians. The musicians that will perform there are Nigerians. We're pushing the national image.
We're exporting our own.
The thing is, it is what is discouraging a lot of people from even wanting to become Nigerian players. Okwaraji died. But you see, Kanu Nwankwo, when he had the heart issue, if he were in Nigeria, playing in Nigeria, he won't make it. A foreign organization took care of the cost. So what happens is that some of these players, when they come to play, they don't play wholeheartedly, because if they break their legs, they may not even get treated. But they are covered when they are in their clubs, in the foreign clubs.
If I can ask you quickly, Is the federal government or the Federal Republic of Nigeria, with its 36 states and 774 official local governments, aware of the potential of the entertainment industry in laundering the Nigerian image and identity?
Oh, yes, they do. They know. For instance, Rema had made more impact in India than the High Commissioner. Rema was on stage performing to nearly 100,000 Indians. The High Commissioner to India has not met 20,000 Indians. Rema's song is on the lips of most Indians than the name of the High Commissioner. So what does that say? It's that the High Commissioner should have even just been on stage to say, thank you, Rema, and for doing us right. This is something that we've presented to you, for representing us very well. No. Instead, the people that are pushing the name of this country don't get honored. But once you play a role in politics, you get a national honor. What does that say? People who are making other people in other countries recognize Nigeria. People watch Nigerian movies and all, but you see, Nigerian movies, listen to our songs and wear our clothes. But you see, what Nigeria needs to do is do the same thing you are doing for football. You make Nigerian players go to national competition, international competitions. What do you do for the fashion industry to be represented in international organizations as well?
Why not allow them to take our beautiful designs out of the country?
Exactly. And then the other thing is that you are asking for all our artifacts that are taken outside to be brought back, to be put where? Our national museums are not set up and built in a way that it attracts even us to attend them. Do
you even know where it is? Anyway, Dr. Sobodu and Dr. Salau, 30 seconds each. Your final words. Ladies first. 30 seconds each.
All right, my final words. We're all in this together, and we all need to understand that we rise together and we fall together. Let's start working on a better Nigeria.
Dr. Sobodu.
Well, my would be to say that we need to ensure that the resources we commit to the national orientation efforts, they are supported by the actions, credible actions of leadership across the various levels.
And Dr. Oh, since they're all doctors. I think the inclusion or the highlighting of the national orientation in the ministry now will give it a lot more attention. Will also financially, the DG can then have more funds to work with, because before a government policy begins to take impact and effect, you need to sensitize the people. Let the agency, let the National Orientation Agency begin to sensitize people before you even do anything. Okay. If it is that there is going to be
Naira
change, price of fuel is going to, you then begin to tell people why the price is going to increase.
3 to 6 months ahead.
And everybody begins to prepare and cut your coat according to your cloth first, before you then drop it and dump it on them. What we also need is, when these policies are made, don't forget that one of the things that is listed in that policy is that we must promote economic recovery.
Yeah.
The economic recovery. What are we doing to promote our national recovery? Because the dependence is still on foreign products.
It's very, very unfortunate, but hey, that's our reality, and something has to be done. Atunyota Akpobome, former head of the Federal Government Committee on Creative Industry, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Ali Baba, just in case you don't know, Dr. Adetola Salau is former Special Assistant on Education to the Lagos State Governor, as well as Dr. Olatunji Sobodu, who is a founder and CEO of Emet Leadership Academy. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning. Truly appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, that's one down. None of this will happen without education. And that's where we're going next after this break. Do stay with us.